So back in November, we hosted our second ever property and business mastermind experience out in Dubai. Now, I flew into Dubai from Las Vegas. I was there for the Formula One with my family. The race finished at midnight, and then 7 a.m. I needed to check out of my hotel, get a flight from Vegas to LA, and then a 16.5-hour Emirates flight. It was a 12-hour time difference. Landed, fell straight asleep, and then the next day we were straight into the mastermind. And so for those wondering what this mastermind is, well, it's a 5-day long experience. I co-host with a very close friend of mine, Alfred Jadi. We actually came up with the idea of the mastermind while we were out in Dubai together a previous year, and we were kind of reflecting on the fact that in the UK there wasn't really many events or environments that were really tailored for those that wanted to play a bigger game. And so this mastermind, yes, there's obviously a lot of learning, there's a lot of workshops which we'll dive into, but it's really an experience as well. And one of the reasons we host it in Dubai is we want to get people out of their comfortable environment that they're in and get them into a new, inspiring environment where they're immersed. Because for me, I'm a big believer that lasting change and real transformation comes through immersion. And one of the best ways to change your life is to change your environment. And so getting out of your comfort zone, your existing environment around your existing friends and network, and into a new location just allows you to reflect and see that there's a bigger game to be playing. There's new ways of thinking, and that is why we kind of facilitate this experience. And the whole trip itself is definitely not the Tyler and Alfred show. We never wanted it to be that. It's not 5 days of learning from myself and Alfred. Now, of course, we share a lot about our businesses and what works well for us, but really we create and cultivate a room, an environment for this week that we also want to be in. It's almost a bit of a selfish reason, but we use it as a way to get in proximity with some of the speakers and other people that we can learn from ourselves, that we can build relationships with. And a lot of the speakers who we've brought have become friends, and even the attendees, some of them are now business partners, and this business gets done in the room. So we start off the event, the experience, with the first evening being a cocktail reception, which we host at the top of the address in JBR. It's 77 floors. It's the most beautiful, beautiful rooftop bar. I think it's one of the tallest infinity pools in the world. And the reason we do the cocktail reception is just so everyone can kind of meet each other, break the ice, because going straight into the first day, there's a lot of uncomfortable conversations that need to be had, a lot of opening up, sharing about everyone's life and their journey so far. And so it's very important that everyone gets to know each other, break bread, have a few drinks. And I always say a few words, Alfred says a few words, congratulating these guys on making the decision to come out. Of course, there's an investment to come, and it's not a hugely significant investment, but for some of the guys that are maybe a little bit earlier on in their journey, they had to get resourceful. Property, of course, is a game where cash can get tied up in a lot of deals, and so to kind of come up with the money, a couple kind of decided to come out quite last minute, didn't make the decision to come until some even a week before the event. So really just congratulating the guys and thanking them for trusting us on investing in themselves, investing in this experience. So going in straight into day one, we host the experience in a £10 million villa on the Palm. It's definitely not the cheapest location to host an event like this. We could literally save ourselves tens and tens and tens of thousands of pounds by just hosting it in a hotel conference room, a hotel boardroom, which is dimly lit with no windows, with a boring buffet meal outside. But again, environment is everything. A big part of this is just getting into an inspiring environment. And I remember the first event we hosted, again, on a villa on the Palm. I always knew that living on the Palm or having a villa on the Palm is, of course, something that you should look up to. But I definitely did not appreciate, and neither did any of my team that I brought with me, like how incredible it is to have this big, beautiful villa where you can just walk out of your terrace doors downstairs, have a beautiful infinity pool outside, and walk onto the beach where you've got the sunset, you've got these neighbors, which are all incredibly successful people. And there's one thing about Dubai, and the Palm especially, it's just there is so much abundance. There are more Rolls Royces and supercars than you can count. And you get reminded and start to condition your mind that there's definitely no shortage of opportunity, no shortage of capital in the world. And so that is the reason we host it in this villa, is one, because it's a nice place to be, but secondly, because it shows people what is possible. A lot of people, like, a big part of it is you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what things are out there, what things are possible. And so I, for one, came back, especially from the first trip, thinking, so I asked myself the question, how do I get a villa on the Palm? And another thing was, I've had chefs, private chefs cook for me here and there from, like, special meals, etc. We had a private chef for the whole week. This was the first trip. Also had the same chef for this experience in November because it was so good. And I remember coming back from the first Dubai trip, and a friend of mine, a neighbor who lives a few floors upstairs, asked me, like, what were the biggest takeaways from the trip? I was like, bro, having a private chef is the most unbelievable experience. Now, this chef was world class. The food was incredible, but to be able to wake up, walk downstairs, and you have the most amazing breakfast platter prepared for you. The lunches, cooked beautiful lunches for us and all of the attendees, and then dinners as well were like some of the finest dinners I've ever had. Just eliminating thinking about what are we going to eat tonight, going out, having to buy the ingredients, having to clean up, like just all decision making and bandwidth that's required for like cooking and eating is just gone, and you just sit down at whatever time and the food is there prepared for you. So that was one thing that just opened my eyes. But regardless, the first day is all about kind of introductions. We spend a lot of time in the morning just going through everyone in the room and understanding where they're at in their journey, what challenges they're facing in their business right now, and really starting to uncover where they're at psychologically as well. One thing I've definitely learned from doing 2 of these events now, plus some kind of smaller versions here at my home in London, for example, is a lot of people come to these events with the desire and the intention to learn specific skills, strategies, tactics, and really the mechanical stuff. And you ask them at the start of the event, like, what is it you want to get out of this event? Like, what is it that make this event a success for you? And we ask it in the onboarding form as well. And they say things like, could be understanding how to get better at raising capital, getting better at building their brand, getting better at whatever it is, getting more clarity on their business strategy. Every time at the end of the trip, when we ask, what were the biggest takeaways or the biggest kind of things you learned from this experience, everyone says it's the mindset shift. It's the new way of thinking. It's the psychology. And so as we're doing introductions on the first morning of day 1, we start to get a pulse on what limiting beliefs people have, even if they don't consciously realize it, and you figure it out by picking up on certain language patterns, how they talk about themselves or how they talk about their past, and these stories they keep telling themselves that they believe to be true that are really holding them back. And as everyone gets more comfortable, we start to really call people out on these belief systems and these stories. And throughout the experience, throughout the 5 days, we start to see how we can reframe these belief systems, these limiting beliefs that people might have, to more empowering belief systems that can really help them push past where they're at. So the morning of day 1, everyone introduces themselves, gets really comfortable, we have a beautiful lunch, and then the second half of day 1, we go into a lot of strategic property stuff. So we talk about how to scale a property business by understanding how to raise capital, understanding how to creatively finance deals, and the complexity of the financing side of property and the capital stack and debt and equity, and how that kind of extrapolates over a business model. Banks, lenders are the biggest investors in your deals. And oftentimes the banks are going to do more due diligence and ask more questions than any investor ever will. And the banks are looking at the deal, and they're also going to be looking at you. The deal, they're going to send the surveyor out, they're going to look at the numbers. If they like the deal, they're going to put a thumbs up. They'll be happy to lend the money. And they're just going to look at the individual. What's their experience? What assets and liabilities do they have or don't have? And then they're going to assess, do we want to lend money to this deal, or do we want to lend money to this individual? Another part of it is a team. You want to look at what team is involved, and one of the ways you kind of overcome that and kind of give the banks more confidence is obviously present to them the team. So like for us on the development project that we're doing, banks, they want to know more about, just as much about our contractors than they do about us, because they know actually a lot of the risk lies with the contractor. And so same thing when speaking to investors. It's like, you say, look, so I've worked with MasterCard and Barclays, and I've managed, X hundreds of millions of whatever. Yeah, I'm doing this deal, but found a great deal. Here's are the numbers. Here's obviously the irrefutable evidence to support the GEV, the build costs, and where I got it from. But then here's the contractors and project managers that have done loads of these deals. You're just the one kind of bringing all the parts together. We talk about the character traits that are required to succeed, which us saying it on day one is one thing. And then as we bring in the speakers throughout the rest of the experience, the speakers and have all obviously incredible businesses and all these incredible stories really begin to drill home these character traits that are required to be successful and the new way of thinking and the patterns in the ways of thinking, the patterns in their character traits and behaviors just become so obvious that by the end of the 5 days, it's just completely hard to ignore. So day one is a bit of a comfortable and smooth introduction into the mastermind, but day two is where things got quite fun. So we start off day two by doing an amazing gym workout together. So we've got this beautiful gym in Dubai that we go to where we do a group workout. It's quite intense. I'd obviously been traveling for a couple of weeks in Vegas, LA, etc. My training hadn't been too good, and even I found the workout quite tough. Again, the workout is just a great way to build that brotherhood and that bond. You work out together, in my opinion, is one of the best ways to build a relationship with someone. And then following the workout, we'll get into, not at the same time, but we do an ice bath, which is something like 3 or 4 degrees. We're in for somewhere in the region of 6, 7, 8 minutes. And there are always 1 or 2 that are a little bit nervous, and you can kind of tell they're a bit apprehensive to get in. But when everyone's doing it and those people around you are doing it, you just get dragged along, and it reaffirms the importance of having the right people, the right network around you. And one of the key points we talk about and the ways of thinking that is required, of course, is you've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. You've got to understand that you want to be able to embrace hard things. Doing hard things is good. You should do hard things for long periods of time, and you should be comfortable in discomfort. And this is just kind of a tangible way of proving that. But we do the ice bath. If you've ever done an ice bath before, you know how amazing you feel afterwards. And then we all get changed, go back to the villa where we kick off the sessions for day two. So day two, we cover a wide range of topics, and we had a couple of guest speakers as well. One of the guest speakers is someone I was really, really looking forward to welcoming to the group, and his name's Lewis Alsop. Lewis is the founder and chairman of Alsop & Alsop, the #1 real estate brokerage in Dubai. Now, I can't say exactly, but his business produces 9 figures of revenue in pounds, which is over 100 million per year, with healthy double-digit margins. Again, I can't say too much because he was sharing sensitive information with us. But Lewis is someone that came to Dubai 16 years before with not a pot to piss in, and just through sheer resourcefulness. And Lewis openly admitted, and not to discredit him in any way at all, but he openly says, he's not the smartest tool in the tool shed, as in he's not the most super high IQ intellectual, which is actually the same for all of the speakers. And one of the belief systems we really try and instill into those attending is that you want to have the belief that what one person can do, I can do. And it's so easy to kind of pedestalize these super successful people and think of them as these superior beings. But when you're in physical proximity with them, i.e. in the same room 5-10 feet away, and you realize that they aren't these super intelligent, gifted humans that we just can't compete with. Yes, you've got the Elons and the Zuckerbergs that maybe fall into that category, but people like Lewis that are worth hundreds of millions. But the one thing Lewis does have, and was so obvious in his presentation, he just has that winner's mindset, where he is just, there is no other possible outcome other than I am going to win and I'm going to push forward.
You're only as good as the environment that you're in. We're all our plants. If you're in the right environment, you grow. If not, you won't. If I was in a Coventry agent, I'd be really good at it. I'd probably make £100,000 a year, and that would be an exceptional agent in today's market. But when you come to Dubai, you see a different life. My mum can't comprehend, so I don't talk to anyone. In this room here, I will talk money with you. I'll talk figures, I'll talk openly. If you see me in public, I will never ever talk about turnover, profit. I'll never talk about any of that because it's just bollocks to everyone else. To you guys that are in business, I'm happy to talk numbers with you. As I've got more successful financially and emotionally and everything else, I've realised you've got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And when you can do that, I promise you, it makes you a better person. The people that you look at, they're probably your friends and family. They're probably in the same job, and they're probably trying to chase the 5% increase in their salary, and they're probably trying to make their house better by another 30 grand by putting an extension on it. That's comfortable. Uncomfortable is creating a crazy reaction to have a crazy result. And that crazy reaction for me at that time was moving to Dubai. The last job that I took before setting Allsop and Allsop up, the guy who we used to work for called me and said, Lewis, I want you to come work for me as a sales director. And I was 20 years old. My beard grew, and I tried to make myself look older. It was a big thing about trying to make myself look older. And I got this job, and the guy offered me £150,000 a year, basic salary. I was on 30% commission, override of the company. But what he wanted me to do was get the trade license of the business. And he wanted me to, I walked into the office, and it was a 5,000 square foot empty marble office. And he went, there's a license. So what do you want me to do? I went to go and do the logo, go and hire the staff, go and put the furniture in, and then go and launch our project. I was like, fucking hell, how am I going to do this? And we sort of figured it out. I hired people. We had the money. We didn't. They had the money to do it. We hired people. We launched the project. We sold the project out. So after being there a year of launching this development, me and my brother sat down and we were like, look, there's a market in Dubai for real estate. So me and Carl had a forecast that we wanted to be the #1 agency in Dubai. This was 15 years ago. We started with 3 people in the business, me, myself, and a guy called Gary, and we set the business up, me and Carl, with that goal. And I remember the day we opened the office, the recession happened. So I was like, oh my fucking God. You imagine I put into the business like £250,000 of my own money, no jet VCs, no nothing, just straight up like going broke. So I left that big job behind, and I was paying myself 5,000 dirhams a month, which is 1,100 quid. So I've left all this money, like, oh my God, this is fucking rough. I remember reading the newspaper, and there's a local guy like this saying, Lehman Brothers collapsed and all and I was like, fuck me. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Honestly, the best thing that ever happened, because all these businesses that have massive overheads, and we were just this little company, we just fucking obliterated it. We were just chopping it, every single person. When they were cutting their overheads, we had no fear. And I think that's probably one of the strengths of a lot of entrepreneurs. If you've got not a lot to lose, you can really do some fucking damage. That's how we got to Allsop and Allsop. Fast forward 15 years where we are today. I was working out for 2023, we will sell just over $3 billion worth of property.
And all of the problems he's faced and challenges he's faced to get to where he is now really reaffirmed to everyone in the room, including myself, that you are only as good as your ability to solve problems, and you are only as good as your ability to be resourceful. Another thing Lewis kind of taught the group, which again became more and more obvious the more people that spoke, is you're only as good as your team. And Lewis said he's not the best finance guy in his business. He's not the best HR people person in his business. What he is really, really good at is finding those great people and bringing them onto his team and creating this culture of winners, which is really what's allowed his business to grow. Especially in property, no matter what business you're in, you are only as good as your team. And property is definitely a team sport. You've got to have a great professional team around you if you're an investor, developer, and yeah, just unbelievable mindset, unbelievable stories, and really just forced everyone in the room to think much bigger. We had a couple guys in the room that were property sourcers that were successful, making 10, 15, 20,000 pounds a month in the property sourcing business, which is a sourcing agency, to then hear about Lewis with his agency, his brokerage, doing 9 figures of revenue per year. You really start to reflect and think, okay, maybe there is a bigger game to be played here. So following Lewis, we had a good friend from Birmingham, Mr. Anthony Laville, Mr. Big Deals Only, very kindly fly out and do a presentation to the group. So for those that don't know Anthony, he's an incredibly successful student accommodation and build-to-rent developer based out of Birmingham. Anthony's motto is big deals only, and he really does do big deals. He talked us through his entire pipeline of developments, which are in the tens of millions, probably close to 100 million of GDV, plus his pipeline of developments that he's building out and taking through planning is, I believe, 200-300 million plus. I think it's even more now since the trip. He just pulled back the curtain on his entire business, held nothing back, showed us exactly how he finds deals, how he's raising capital for his deals. And following on from Lewis, just talked about the importance of team. and the team that he has to assemble around him. Another thing that Anthony drilled home, following from Lewis, was you are only as good as your ability to solve problems and your ability to be resourceful. He talked about all of the challenges that he's faced with contractors going bust, banks breathing down his neck, putting pressure on him, where he's had to put more money into projects or find more money to put into projects.
2017 came, I started striking these land deals. I was looking for sites that I thought would be good for either residential apartments or student accommodation. And that's a big opportunity in this market when you're in this game. You've got, if you can, try and be early. It's about, and you must have heard this shit before, it's about paying the right price when you're going in, because that saved me plenty of times, paying the right price. Like my Bridge Street Studios deal, that's an £11 million property. We bought it for 400 grand. We had the contractor go bust mid-construction. We got killed for about £1 million, yet we still were able to finish the deal, make profit. Our debt's like less than, like, we're probably about 55% loan to value. So we still won because we paid the right price and we were early in the area. So that's critical. I was at a networking meeting a couple of years back, and I was chatting to a guy from Blackstone that I know. He said, Anthony, do you need any debt requirement? I was like, actually, you know what, I'm working on this big deal at the moment.
You got schooled.
Yo! He's like, how much you need? I was like, I'm probably going to need about 20 million quid debt. Anyway, no, that's not. I was like, what's the minimum? He's like, 100 million. That's the minimum debt size they need to do a deal at that time, a couple of years ago. So it's relative, do you know what I mean? I can show you this shit, and then you go to someone else and it's like, no, we can't even look at that. You want your team, especially if you're starting out, you're the newbie. Your team needs to be stellar. Their track record needs to be second to none. You're going to present your deal, right, in your deal memo, and you're going to go, here's my professional team, here's my architect, here's a track record, here's my engineer, here's a track record, and then you're going to show yourself and no track record, right? But it's cool because you present yourself as a team, right? And that's what gets you through. When you're presenting it as it's just you, it looks weak to an investor, it looks weak to a bank. When you present it as us and our team and collectively we've done this.
And just the importance of raising capital. Like, if you want to build a meaningful real estate business, you cannot do that with just your own capital. Like, that is just a dream. It's imperative that you learn the money game, you learn the money side, you essentially become a CFO, a financial engineer, and you understand how to raise capital, how to structure the capital side. But an interesting thing that you begin to observe when you start to spend time around these successful property operators is a lot of people obsess over finding the money first, so then they have the confidence to go find the deal. When actually, when you get around these bigger property guys, they actually say that finding the money is the easy thing. If you can find the good deals, you get really good at finding the deals, the money is out there. Money is abundant. There is definitely no shortage of money. When you're on the palm in Dubai, surrounded by all of these beautiful 10, 20, 30 million pound plus properties and more Rolls Royces than you can count, and all of this money, you do realize, okay, there is definitely no shortage of money out there. And Anthony just forced everyone in the room to think bigger, which was definitely eye-opening. And as you guys can start to see with this trip, like Alfred and I, we don't like to do things in half, so we book the best, in our opinion, the best restaurant in Dubai. It's got some of the best food, some of the best views. It's called Ala. It's overlooking the fountains outside the Burj Khalifa near Dubai Mall, and we just have the most amazing food, the most amazing conversations. We have a few drinks, and it's just one of these like magical experiences where you're surrounded by like-minded people who all have big ambitions. There's no jealousy, there's no trying to put each other down. It's everyone wants everyone to win. We're all sharing stories, and just one of those dinners that you never forget, and where you really start to build a bond and friendships with these people. I can't reiterate enough, you spend 5-6 days with anyone in an environment like this, you become friends. And a lot of the guys that attended, in fact all of the guys that attended the Mastermind are people I consider friends now. They call me, they have chats, they've been around to my apartment, we've had dinner together since, because we're so aligned on the way we see the world, our values, our belief systems and vision, etc. And this really, like, this is the kind of trip that attracts those kinds of people. The dinner was a lot of fun. It was a late night. We were all super tired. Obviously, been a long day. And yeah, went back and ready for day 3. So coming into day 3, throughout the morning, we covered a lot of different topics, a lot of questions in the room, which we answered. And then we had some really, really incredible speakers come. One of which being a close friend of mine, Mike Thurston. Now, Mike attended our first Dubai Mastermind. He came to speak and share some wisdom with the room as well. And one of the, again, key principles of this trip that we try and teach is the importance of building a brand. If you can build a brand, a personal brand, and have an audience of people that know, like, and trust you, your ability to attract opportunity just is like exponentially higher, 100x higher, because it's like networking on steroids. It's great networking and having a few people know who you are. When you have a brand and you have thousands or tens of thousands, or in Mike's case, millions of people that know who you are, the amount of opportunity that comes your way is just like quantum leap forwards in your life and in your business. Especially in real estate, it gives you better access to capital, gives you better access to deal flow, gives you better access to staff and team that want to come work with you and back you on your mission and your vision, and they love your brand. So Mike is someone that we bring into the room to really help draw that point home, the importance of content and social media. Now, it goes without saying, and I'm sure maybe people listening to this at home can attest to the fact that if you've never done social media before or put yourself out there, there are a lot of hesitations and anxieties and concerns that come with that, and that was definitely true for several people in the room. Louis, for example, one of the attendees, incredibly successful guy with his construction business, was really, really apprehensive and crippled by kind of a few limiting beliefs and a few stories he was telling himself as to why he couldn't get himself out there in social media and build a brand for himself as much as he wanted to. And he was someone that since, and will play his testimonial, since attending to the trip, he started to put himself out on social media. He's secured his first property development project, but also raised, I think, £400,000 private investment to fund that deal because he got comfortable being uncomfortable. He overcame these belief systems that weren't serving him and started to create content and build a brand for himself.
Before Dubai, I'd never spoken on camera in my life. I was reluctant even to post a picture of myself on social media. I just wouldn't do it. So yourself, Alfred, and Tyler sort of highlighted to me at an early stage that that's not going to really cut it. If I want to get to where I want to get to, the end result of me being a little bit braver and speaking on camera and just talking about my experience and what I'm trying to achieve, it's taken 2.5 months and I've raised £350,000.
So we wrapped up with Mike, and then we were straight in with Daniel Louisi of Asheville Construction. Now, Daniel Louisi, again, incredible personal brand, especially in the construction space, has blown up on YouTube over the last 2 or 3 years, and a very successful business operator. So not just someone that has done an incredible job at building a big media empire and a big brand around himself, but someone that is a multi-8-figure business owner. So we actually flew in Daniel from London. He came out specifically for this, and you can imagine a lot of these speakers, they're not cheap to take time out of their week and fly them out first class. But Daniel was someone that really brought the energy and really brought a lot of stories. There were a couple of guys in the room that were big fans of Daniel. So one of them being Ollie, who had a landscaping business, also has a landscaping business and a very successful landscaping business. And Ollie was someone that, again, really hesitant to put himself out there on social media, to the point where he even admitted this to everyone, and has since talked about it online, that he was afraid to even send a voice note on WhatsApp. That's how kind of self-conscious he was. He spent some time with me here in London several months before, got him thinking about personal branding, and then coming to Dubai was really what flicked the switch for him, especially listening to Daniel Louisi talk about how the media he's created has just unlocked so many opportunities for him and his business. And since then, Ollie has created a YouTube channel, is vlogging every single week, documenting him building his business, which has come with incredible rewards and returns.
It's been amazing. It's been a complete whirlwind of a few months since we got back. A lot's changed, a lot's in motion. You know, I was another example of not even being able to send sort of a voice note on WhatsApp, just being so uncomfortable. And you know, we've now got a YouTube channel, and I've now got I've got 2 full-time on media and a half sort of part-time guy who started today. So yeah, 2.5 full-time following us around the cameras, and yeah, a lot of huge changes in a very short space of time. It's been amazing. The group that you do it with, I think Louis was saying that everyone walks into the room at the beginning. There's no judgment. Everyone's doing something completely different. The only sort of synergy is just a curiosity and an interest that is, has become strong enough for you to really invest in yourself and take yourself seriously. And that leads to a powerful week. We had grown men in tears, and it was an amazing room to be in. And the guest speakers were so powerful as well, but just in how it was all set up. They literally were in the living room with you. They would do their talk, and then we'd all be out, all go outside together, and they'd have a coffee with you. No one was in a rush. Everyone would give you all the time that you wanted, the time that you needed. A lot of them turned up sort of early and left late, and the fact that you actually leave a room and that caliber of person, that you felt was just in another league, is actually got a lot in common and started in the same place and is now taking you seriously and invested in your journey just because you've invested in yourself. So, the fact that you make that jump, suddenly everyone's taking you seriously.
So Daniel shared all of his stories about how he got started, but what was most impressive was the challenges that he's faced along the way. A lot of these challenges I don't think he's publicly talked about online, and there were times that we had to turn the camera off, and he shared things just privately for the room. Now, he's a very transparent guy online, but that guy has been through some serious challenges. He is the definition of a problem solver. Again, reaffirming one of the main things that we teach is you are only as good as your ability to solve problems. Business is not easy, and you've got to be prepared to do hard things and solve these problems, and he was a testament to that. So yeah, Daniel was incredible. Really obviously grateful for him flying out and sharing 2-3 hours of his time, and lots to take away. So day 4 was the day which I was personally most excited for, and day 4 was when we had Daniel Priestley come and spend a full day with us. For those that don't know Daniel, he's an incredible authority in the business space. He's an incredible author, written some incredible books like Key Person of Influence, Oversubscribed, Entrepreneur Revolution. He's been on a lot of big podcasts and has a very, very successful software company, amongst other companies. I think people really underestimate the size and scale of his business. And Daniel covered an unbelievable amount of different topics with us. The guys attending, I think, really underestimated the amount of value that Daniel was going to share. They didn't really know who Daniel was. They'd obviously looked into him after they found out about the event, but he just blew everyone away from the first 30 minutes of him talking. He started off by talking about, of course, the importance of personal brand, but really created a great frame for people to think about personal branding. And one of the misconceptions I think a lot of people that had about personal branding that were maybe skeptical or hesitant to put themselves out there is they saw personal branding, creating content, as this narcissistic way to get in the spotlight. The reframe that Daniel shared with the room, which of course did a much better job of explaining it than me and took a bit more time, is that actually personal branding is not about being in the spotlight. Personal branding is about becoming the spotlight. And when you have an audience of people that know, like, and trust you, is you can then point that spotlight at other things about your businesses, about other things that you care about. And that really kind of took a bit of a weight off people's shoulders, in the sense of suddenly they felt okay. And that simple reframe and change in perspective helped a lot. And then Daniel started to tell us about the importance of, with your brand, having a clear origin, mission, and vision, which develops part of your pitch. Your pitch being the way you introduce yourself to people that you might meet on the street or in business meetings, how you introduce yourself on a podcast, how you introduce yourself in content that you create. And just share with us like this really, really incredible framework of how to develop that pitch.
So the first thing I want you to keep in mind is no one actually cares. No one gives a shit. So you've got to be brief, and you've got to create a character for them to understand. If we think about characters that we like, they're very simple characters. Batman is a simple character. He was a victim of crime, age 10, and he's also a trust fund kid. So we know a couple of things about him. And then he's got a vision for the future of Gotham City free from crime because of what happened to him. And he's got a mission to use his trust fund to dress up as a bat and strike fear into the heart of baddies. So now we understand his past, his future, and what he does day to day. You have the Walter Isaacson biography about yourself, right? So you got the thick version, but no one else wants it. No one cares, right? So they just want the simple version. What I just described is origin, mission, vision. The other thing too, the first major flip that I want you to have in your mind around this whole personal brand thing is that what most people think is that a personal brand is, here's you, and here's the spotlight, and the spotlight's shining on you, right? And it's like, oh, I'm the star of the show. But that's totally not it. So the way it's got to work is that this is you, and you are the one who shines the spotlight onto things. You're the one who shines the light. So the goal is not to be in the spotlight, the goal is to become a spotlight. For example, Tony Robbins, right? Yeah. Tony Robbins, he's there shining the light onto human potential. He's there to say, hey, don't look at me, look at what you can do. Don't look at me, look at the power of like great habits and look at, that sort of stuff. But, for me personally, I'm out there talking about, hey, isn't it powerful if you build a personal brand, how that impacts your business? And I might talk about like oversubscribed demand and supply tension, and I'm showing examples where that happens. So the whole idea here is we don't want to be in the spotlight at all, right? Who would want that? It's about shining the light onto something that you want to shine the light onto. Does that make sense?
You started to see these people in the room who had done incredible things. One of them specifically is Leonard, and we'll play the clip. Leonard is someone that has an incredible story, and I think really when Daniel helped him develop his pitch, there was just this moment of silence in the room. Everyone was like, holy shit, that really just, if Leonard like introduces himself with that pitch, it's just the most perfect way of demonstrating who he is, the challenges he's been through and what he's achieved, builds instant authority, and was, and for a lot of guys in the room was a really eye-opening experience.
Leonard, origin story.
I've always grown up, I guess, in the struggle. When I say struggle, parents making ends meet. But the trigger point was when they lost their house. I was the first person coming to the door, trying to open up the house, and I couldn't get it.
Wow.
And I had my younger brother with me. No mobile phones, didn't know what to do. But I made a vow to myself that I wanted to be absolutely different. I needed to make money. Mm-hmm. And that's the trigger point.
Amazing.
When I was 13.
Imagine either on a video or on a stage, you say, let me introduce myself. I grew up in a really economically poor family. I remember the time when I turned the front door key, and I was the first to discover that they'd repossessed the house, and we were homeless at that point in our life. Fast forward, I ended up as the CFO of multi-billion-dollar international brands, managing billions of dollars worth of money and deal flow, month in, month out. Now immediately everyone's like, fucking hell, how did all that happen, right? Right?
I actually felt emotional then listening to that.
Yeah. So that's the power of a low resolution, boom, boom, right? So your origin story is that, boom. Now it's like, what are you going to do next? Vision. What do you do now? Mission, right? So, but that your origin story is that. From that to that, now vision, mission.
Daniel then spent the rest of the day talking about business strategy. Daniel's talent, he just has this incredible ability to break complex tasks down into simple, easy to understand frameworks. And that's when you know someone's really mastered something. Someone's really mastered something if they can simplify and explain it simply, which is what Daniel did, and went through the importance of how to just build a business. I mean, if you've ever listened to any of his podcasts, even just on a 90-minute, 2-hour podcast, you can see the amount of value that he shares, let alone 10 plus hours in a room with him, talking with each of the business owner of the room specifically about their business and how they should grow from there, depending on how big their team is, what the revenue is, and the revenue drivers. And just everyone's mind was blown by the end of the day. It was just unbelievable. And so when Daniel wrapped up, everyone was in agreement that Daniel's day of coaching was the most valuable part of the whole experience. I mean, everything was valuable, but they were just blown away, and a lot of them got the biggest takeaways from that. A big part of what I believe to be true and what I teach to anyone, and of course at these experiences, is for those that are wanting to build a property investment development company. Property investment development is a very capital intensive business, meaning it requires a lot of money invested, and it's a balance sheet game. It's all about building the balance sheet. So although you can build wealth and you can build equity, the cash at hand and sometimes the cash flow can be very poor. And I always say, I have a running joke with a lot of my most successful property investment development friends that I can't go on a nice holiday or even a nice dinner with them because all their money is tied up in deals. Now, obviously, I've got development company, investment company. We do obviously the HMOs, we do the big land developments with Newman Rose. But it's important when you have a capital intensive business like that to supplement it and complement it with a trading business or a service-based business which produces a lot of net free cash flow, which kind of acts as the money that you want to live on. If you want to go on nice trips, invest in yourself, buy nice things, whatever things you value the most, you need cash flow. Now, you don't want a business or an income where you're trading your time for money, i.e. a job where you're kind of paid by the hour. Ideally, you want to create a business or a vehicle where you're paid in proportion to the value that you can provide, and that's really how you scale an income. So a lot of Daniel's talk, we were going around the room and understanding what businesses people have currently that they could scale or pivot, what businesses they could create that allows them to produce that cash flow to supplement, of course, their investment development company, which is much more capital intensive. There was obviously some great examples in the room. We had Jamie and Abhishek, who started property less than 12 months ago and they're already on track to do multiple 7 figures revenue at their run rate. Unbelievable story. And they got the clarity they needed over their business in terms of how they should think about the finances. Leonard, who is a CFO, started his own company. He was obviously able to provide them unbelievable insight into how they should scale and how they should think about growing their business from a financial perspective. Someone that's worked as a CFO for some big blue chip public companies could directly give these guys advice who are in the first 12 months of their business on track for multiple 7 figures in their first year. But Leonard, for example, is someone that wanted to step away from being a CFO and wanted to start his own service-based industry. And recently I heard from Leonard that started that company. He's already on track to hit multiple 6 figures this year, is up to, I think, 12, close to 20K per month in income already in like month 2 and month 3. And he's confident that he's going to hit 7 figures in the next 12 months, all because of these ideas that Daniel helped him with. So it just goes to show that the value is definitely there in the room. All of the guys got huge takeaway from it in one form or another. One thing I definitely noticed with this mastermind, again, I kind of alluded to this at the start, people come for one thing. And I always say to everyone when they come as part of the onboarding process, like, if you want to get maximum value out of this, because this is what I do, whether I'm investing £1,000 in myself or £50,000 in masterminds, it is up to me to come with the intention on what do I want to learn and take away from this. Well, I'm going to ask questions and I'm going to get the answers to my questions. I'm going to network and build the relationships, and I'm really going to extract as much value as I can, because there is a responsibility on me to play full out and, be active at these events to try and extract the value. And every one of the guys did that. But everyone kind of comes with intentions of wanting to learn certain things, and they end up finding that the things they walk away with, which are things that they could never have expected, because you don't know what you don't know. And you think you're coming to solve one problem, but then you realize that that is not the problem you want to solve, and actually it's something else that you should be doing. And so everyone left with kind of the clarity on where their business is and where they want it to be going with their business, which then leads us into day 5. And day 5 is a beautiful experience where we attend the Abu Dhabi Formula One. So in the morning, we do a debrief at the villa. We kind of go through everyone's biggest takeaways, make sure no one's got any other questions and they've got the clarity that they need to go home from this trip and implement it. And then the Abu Dhabi Formula One is just an opportunity for everyone to celebrate, to reflect, and just enjoy themselves, because it's been an intense week. I was extremely exhausted. I know Alfred was as well. We played full out for these guys. Our whole team did as well, and all of the attendees. And Abu Dhabi Formula One, it's not just, again, we don't do things in halves. We're not just in the grandstands on a corner. We want to be at the center of the biggest party on the best hospitality terrace. We had Kanye West 2 tables away from us. We had Flo Rida performing right in front of us. And so obviously we ordered a lot of drinks. We had Daniel Priestley come with us as well, which was incredible. And yeah, we just had a lot of fun. And for a lot of the guys attending, it was a very emotional experience, because I remember Jamie pulling me aside, and Jamie's someone that had been through a lot of shit in his life. He's not afraid to admit it. Loss of his parents at a young age, some horrible things happening to him early on in his life, and someone that is just put in that position. Someone can either just be completely crippled by it and it can go one way, or someone can just own it and use it as fuel to build something incredible. And Jamie chose the latter. And he pulled me aside and he whispered to me and said, Tyler, I've never in a million years thought I'd ever experience anything like this. And I remember saying to him, I said, Jamie, you've got to normalize it, because this is what life has to offer you now. You're a successful business owner. It was just an emotional experience for everyone, and the bond, the brotherhood that had been built was incredible. It was a good Formula One race. The fireworks at the end, followed by the parties. It was an amazing way to round off the trip. And yeah, I think it just reminds me on reflection the importance of environment. And one thing I learned from an early age from Tony Robbins is that proximity is power. You've got to pay whatever price you can to get in proximity with extraordinary people into the right environments, because it just pays dividends 100 times over. And I say this with conviction because it's a rule that I lived by, and the biggest inflection points in my life happened when I got out of my comfort zone and I got into a new environment, and sometimes I had to empty my bank account to get around great people playing a bigger game. And when you do that, that's when the magic happens. I remember saying to Daniel Priestley at the F1, he pulls me aside and says, you're going to do more of these? What's the play? And I said, look, Daniel, I'll be honest, these take out a lot of time in our diary. They are hugely difficult to plan and prepare for behind the scenes. And we don't make any profit on these events. Everything gets reinvested back into the events. I mean, anyone on the back of an envelope could probably look at the experience, calculate the costs, calculate the ticket price, and realize that we do these because, again, selfishly, we want to create these environments where I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to get around people that are doing great things, because I live by the rule that proximity is power. And Daniel said, yeah, I know you guys don't make any money of these. I've done the math in my head. He said, but deals will happen and partnerships will be built and opportunities will present themselves. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I've gone into business now with a couple of the guys that have attended these events. There's guys in the room that have done business together. And for me, it's always, you just have to learn one thing. Going to events like this, there is so much to learn, but there's just one thing. There's one soundbite, one nugget of information that just changes the way you perceive life and your business, and implemented has exponential upside. And so for me, every time I've hosted these 2 trips now, there has always been one of those things where I come away from it with totally different perspective and things that I implement that help me take my business and my personal life to the next level. So the big question is, are we going to do one of these again? And the answer is yes. So coming up, we have our next Mastermind in Miami. Miami, if you know Miami, it is home to the real estate billionaires. Miami is one of the hottest real estate markets on earth, and we have Miami Formula One. So what better way than doing the exact same thing that we've done in Dubai, but taking it up another notch or two in Miami. So if that's something you want to find out more, if we've still got spots available, there'll be a link in the description, and hopefully I'll see some of you there.